Hey YouTube, welcome to Guitar Secrets Volume 2. This is where we discuss all things related to helping you play guitar better and faster. So let's get right to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the controls on a guitar, because I don't think people talk about it enough. I think beginners and intermediate players are very confused as to not only how to use them, but when to use them. Most people just leave it jacked at 100% all the time, and they never think twice about anything else. And you can get a lot of cool tones and functionality from these, so I just want to go through them really quickly. So let's go. What I probably use the volume knob the most is to reduce or clean up the sound. So if I'm playing like a blues sound, I'm using just a blues channel right now, but I have my lead channel on. So if I turn this up a little bit, you can see it's pretty dirty, right? If I want to back that down, but I don't necessarily want to change channels, I just want to clean it up, I'll back the volume knob down and it cleans up everything. Back it down a little more. You can see now it's almost clean. So now with that same change, if I just switch to my neck pickup, and then all you do is roll it back up. Switch back to your bridge. So just this one little control can do so much for you. I will tell you that it does affect everything in line. So it affects your pedals differently, it affects your amps differently, so you do really need to spend some time and fiddle with what you like the best, because ultimately it comes down to your ear, like what you like to hear the most. Music is about expression, right? So this just allows you to do that more, which is a perfect segue into the tone knob. The tone knob does exactly what it sounds like it should do. It affects the tone. I'm going to switch to a cleaner channel. Right? So now if this is with the tone all the way up at 10. Nice and crisp. But you don't always want the attack to be that harsh, that nice bite. Sometimes you want to back it off a little bit. So if you do that, it's just backed off. It's not as sharp, it's not as aggressive sounding. It's that nice soft. Go even more, and this is with the volume, the tone all the way down. Now that's pretty extreme. I rarely ever have the tone all the way up. It's always somewhere in the middle. The point of all of this is the controls that are on your guitar are what affects your sound the most. It allows you to really just become more expressive, have a more dynamic sound. So take the time and mess around with it, okay? On to number 2, which is picking techniques. You hear people talk about alternate picking all the time, or hybrid picking, or all these different things. I'm only going to focus, I'm not actually going to focus on any of that. I'm going to mention alternate picking because it's probably the most, in my opinion anyway, it's probably the most important technique to get down. But there's others, and others that are really important, like, for example, finger picking. And this is not just exclusive to rhythm guitar players. I don't know why people think that finger picking is only for chords and, you know, country sound players, or I use finger picking constantly when I'm playing leads because it's a different sound. It's that simple. It comes down to, instead of having a harsh, sometimes you just want a nice. Every type of guitarist does this. Every type of playing, rock, blues, even metal, you know, for double stops. This playing is constantly done. And what I just did there, I'm gonna focus in on the camera so you can see this. I'm picking one string, but I'm using my finger for the next. This is a huge, you know, Jimi Hendrix. So that's what I mean by finger picking. Mess around with it. Try to have those delicate, once you start combining these sounds, like backing off the volume, using your finger, you can get some really nice sensitive tones, sensitive sounds, and it's a really important thing to get down, so play around with it. I don't know who I saw do this first. It was probably Stevie Ray Vaughan, because he used to do it like crazy, but he would do this thing where he was doing both. He was literally picking with his finger and the guitar pick simultaneously. It's almost like getting an artificial harmonic. There's a few different ways to do this. He used to use his finger, his pointer finger, and then the pick at the same time. So like, you're not quite getting an artificial harmonic, but it's just this weird little... Anyway, I'm not going to harp on these things. I just want to show the different picking techniques can really affect your sound, so play around with it. So now let's talk about alternate picking. So this is probably the most commonly talked about picking style, and it's because it's used constantly. I'm going to, I'm switching to a heavier distortion sound, but I backed off some of the effects. All I have running is a reverb, so I can keep this nice and tight. To start alternate picking, one of the exercises that I show every one of my students. So instead of just doing single notes, we're gonna do two. For now, let's just focus on those 5 notes. The most important thing to remember about alternate picking is you can't pick the strings straight. You can't keep your pick perfectly straight to the strings. It has to be angled. What that allows you to do is skip between strings as you're going up the neck. I'm exaggerating this picking. When you're playing fast, your pick is barely moving next to the string, right? So the next exercise, I'm just going to go up the G string using 2 fingers. I'm just going to use my pointer finger and my ring finger for now. And again, alternate pick. I'm going to do this really slow to start. The next thing I want to talk about is bending. Bending is one of the coolest techniques you can use, but it can also sound terrible if you're not doing it right, if you're sharp, if you're flat, and this is very common with beginners. You know, if you're trying to get to this A, and you're just not quite there, you know, you can hear it. So practice bends. Start with, if that's the bend you're working on, start with that A, and hear it. Listen to what it's supposed to sound like, and get to it. Make sure you're getting to that note all the way up. It should technically sound exactly like the same note. I've heard that people actually use tuners to do this. I've never personally done that. I just tried to do it by ear because I think it's good to work on your ear. You don't have a tuner in front of you all the time when you're playing live, so it's important that you're hearing what it sounds like. You should train yourself to know what a half bend sounds like, a full bend sounds like. The next thing I want to talk about is record yourself. Record yourself on audio, record yourself on video. It makes a big difference. You would not believe what you sound like when you can hear yourself playing. It's kind of like, you ever hear yourself on a recording, you're like, oh my God, my voice sounds like that? Yeah, well, your playing also sounds differently when you're not playing anymore and you're listening to yourself back. Also, when you watch yourself on video, and trust me, I know this from doing all these videos, you can really see some of the mistakes you're making, some of the bad techniques. I identify a lot of times things I need to work on by watching myself play. So, very important tool. Check it out. So that's all for volume 2, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said, we're going to try to do a couple of these a month. We're going to keep the tips coming, so please stay tuned for more. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We're really trying to build this channel up and get the community going. So thanks again, guys.